Hello everybody, I welcome you all to today's video. Today I'm going to talk about what I'm doing right now. Yes, about presentation. So presentation is a very important skill set for a PhD student, and today we are here to discuss about the importance of presentation skills for PhD students and the top 10 tips on how to improve. I'm Dr. Vaishali, academic specialist at Biotechnica. Biotechnica is a space that talks and guides on anything and everything regarding your bioscience career. So come, let's explore the video. First, we're going to talk about what are the different types of presentations a PhD student will give, right? So the first is the conference talks. Say, for example, you're attending a conference and you're going to talk in that conference about your work, then yes, that is the first type of, presentations that you would give. Second is your poster presentation. For example, again, in this conference, if it's either your poster or your paper presentation, so that is also a type of presentation. Fourth is invited talks. That is, if you have been invited as an expert in any other college or university to give a talk about your topic, then yes, that would come under invited talks. Then we have, of course, teaching. Teaching is also a form of presentation because you are going to present your knowledge or share your knowledge with the students. So yes, that is also a form of presentation in itself. Then, of course, if it is a part of your curriculum, right? For example, you have your research proposal acceptance meeting, or you have even your defense meeting, or even if it is smaller meetings in between, like say, for example, you have a progress presentation, right? It could be yearly or half yearly or even quarterly, or even if you're giving any presentation to your supervisor to tell him or her about the, how your work is going and what is the help that you need from him or her. So anything of that sort. So whichever is part of your curriculum as a PhD student. So yes, as a PhD student, you would be giving a lot of, such talks, especially when it comes to your curriculum as well. So it's very important for you to have those presentation skills handy. So now, why is a presentation skill important? Why can't I just go and talk about my work and get done with it, right? Why should I spend so much of my energy into presentation? Well, yes, first of all, to build your confidence, right? There is a statistics that 74% of us feel nervous, right, when we are going to present. So when you have so many presentations to do in your PhD student life, or even in your research career later as well, it's important for you to do it an n number of times so that you don't have this nervousness, right? For this nervousness to go away and for you to feel confidence about what you've done, about sharing your work, it's very important that you keep giving such presentations n number of times so that you get confident about what you're doing. Secondly, it's a way of representing your work. You have done research for all these years, right? You've collected your data, you've analyzed it, you've interpreted it, you've added new knowledge and new data to whatever is already existing. And this is a way that you're going to tell the public, or you're going to tell your fellow scientists that this is what I've done and this is the representation of my work. So yes, this is a very important representation, especially the one that, you connect with people. There are also other forms of representations. You could even write your paper, write your research paper or your review paper. But all of that is not connecting with people, right? So here you're going to stand and you're going to present it physically in front of your audience, right? So it's going to be a better representation of your work. So yes, it's very important for you to learn presentation skills. Thirdly, it's about sharing the knowledge that you have. It's about both sharing as well as learning from the audience. So that is where it's more important as well. Next is about structuring and expressing your ideas clearly. It's not that you just go and talk about your work, but you should you should tell them in a structured way, right? Only then it's easier for them to understand your work so that they they go away with a clarity in their mind. So it's important for you to have this structure in place, and that comes only with a presentation, with a proper presentation, and not just a discussion. So these are the reasons of why a presentation is important for a PhD student. Now, next, so what are the tips that we wanted to discuss? The first is about know your audience, right? You should know to whom you're going to present this particular work. Is it going to be to your peers? Are they from the same field, or is it going to be for experts of the same field? So all of these questions has to be answered first before even you start making a presentation, because obviously, for example, you are going to, the presentation about your work that you're going to give for your scientists is going to be different from, say, for a school student, right? So that way you have to structure your your slides and your content accordingly. Because if it is a fellow scientist from the same field, right, you don't have to give a broad introduction, right? You can, because the tools and techniques and everything, they know about it, right? So you need not bore them with such introductions. You can directly structure your work and start accordingly. But when you are, say, going to give it to a college student or a school student, then you have to give an introduction about your field, about what are the methods and tools and everything that you've used. Only then they will be able to connect with you. Otherwise, if you just start blankly about your work, right, so they will not understand anything, and your presentation is going to be a waste of your time as well as their time. So it's very important for you to know your audience before even you start your presentation work. Second is, read the cues of your audience. Especially when you're giving a talk, you have to look at the audience, have an eye contact between your audience, and see what is it that they are giving you cues. Are they understanding? Are they not understanding? Are they confused? So all of these you can get through looking at your audience and speaking, right? So that is also something that's important, and you should know it, right? So the success of your presentation will be judged not by the knowledge you sent, but by what the listener receives, right? So this is the reason why you should first know your audience before even you start making your presentation. So the next tip that I'm going to talk about is prepare well, right? So this is very important, especially if you're doing it for the first time or the first few times, so that you avoid panic. You know that you've prepared well, you know what to talk and how to answer the questions. So yes, you will avoid that panic that generally comes, panic or nervousness that we talked about in our previous slides as well. So yes, to avoid such panics, you have to prepare well. Secondly, prepare well in advance so that you can have a few practice sessions as well, so that you do not, so don't wait till the end moment to start your preparation, right? So it's very important for you to prepare well in advance. And along with this, you can also brainstorm on what type of questions might be asked, right? So that you prepare for them as well. Third is practicing your presentation, especially if it's a very important presentation, say like your defense or your oral viva, then you give your mock presentation. So this greatly helped even in my research career, right? So during my defense, I made sure to give at least 3 presentations, mock presentations, to different audience group, so that I was able to see if I could convey whatever I wanted to convey to them, and also about anticipating few questions from a third person's angle, right? You might think that these might be the questions, but you are the one who has done the work and you are the one who's explaining it. So your point of view would be different. But when you sit in front of a third person and tell them, then their understanding would be different, especially the way you have portrayed it to them, and their understanding would be totally different. And the questions that they might get, you might not even have thought about it. So yes, so these mock presentations definitely helped me, and I'm sure it will definitely help you as well. Fourth is generating ideas, right? So before even you start making your presentation, first have an idea about what has to go inside your presentation, right? And then you start making it. So that is how you generate ideas, and when you give such mock presentations as well, you get ideas from people as to what you can do well and what you can modify and all of that. So that's how it's important. Third is about making the presentation in itself, that is the PowerPoint presentation, if that is the visual aid that you're choosing. So first, as we talked about, brainstorm before starting. Write down all the points, all the contents of the presentation that's going to be. For example, you're first going to give an introduction, and then you're going to talk about the methods that you used, right? And then you're going to talk about the results that you got, and then the discussion, and then your conclusion. So these are the different chapters that you want in your presentation to be, right? So brainstorm all of these and just write what are the different things you want to put in these chapters as well, so that you have an idea about how many slides or how much time it has to take, what to put, what not to put. All of this you can do by brainstorming before even starting the presentations. And when you are making the PPT for your presentation, make sure that you just have bullet points, right? You need not write the whole sentence and just read there, right? You just need those bullet points so that they help you prompt, right? So that you don't forget any important things. So that is the reason you have texts in your presentation itself, just to help you in prompting, right? Just don't put the text there and then read it out. That is not going to help. That's not going to be interesting as well. Next, keep it simple, especially if it's a scientific work. Then what creativity you have used in your presentation is not very important as whether you're able to land your point properly. So do not use very complicated designs and complicated animations. Okay, keep it simple and keep it to the point. Right. Next is you can use the full slide, right? So don't use the slide just in the middle. Don't cramp all your text and all of your images and graphs into the middle of the slide. Make sure that you use the full space of your slide to make your point clear. Right. Next is avoid abbreviations, right? So yes, do avoid abbreviations, because not everybody in your audience would know what you mean by that particular, short form. Even if you have, say, for example, told them the abbreviation in the first few slides itself, and in the later slides you're just using the short form of it, it's my advice to not do that as well. Use the full forms everywhere, because, or at least while you're talking, even if you've put the short form there, at least when you're explaining, make sure that you tell the full form, because it's not always, possible by the audience to remember it. So it's very important for you to explain them what the abbreviation means. Next important thing we are going to talk about is the title slide, which is nothing but the first slide of your presentation, right? Where the title is there, your name is there, the institute logo, and all of that is there, right? Why this might be a very, you might think that it's not very important, it's just going to contain just one slide, right? No, it's very important, because it gives the first impression to the audience about your presentation, about you. So it's very important that your title slide should not have any spelling mistakes, or the logo of, or it should have the proper logo of your institute. It has to have your name right? So all of these are very important, and this is the slide that is going to be seen by the audience for the longest time, right? First slide as well as for the longest time. So yes, make sure that you don't make any mistakes in this particular slide, and use as many keywords as possible in this particular slide, especially the ones that involves your research work. So whatever the keywords are there, make sure that important keywords, do use that in your title slide, so that the audience know what they are going to expect, right, from your research work. So that is important. Now, having said that, don't make the title slide too long as well in order to, put in all the keywords. No, it has to be short, because if it is too long, your audience are not going to remember it. They're not going to follow what you're going to say, right? So it's important that it has to be short, but it has to convey what actually is there inside your presentation. right? Next, the fifth tip that I'm going to talk about is the time that you're going to take during your presentation, right? So there would be a prescribed amount of time that is given to you, and make sure that you stay within that. Say for example, it is 10 minutes, then make your presentation such that you finish it within 10 minutes and then go for your Q&A, because the audience come with an expectation that your presentation is going to be for this particular time. So it's important to not elongate it also, because they might get irritated. And you should not shorten it also, because it would be a disappointment for your audience, right? So that's important. So one quick tip as to how to do is keep your pace to one slide per minute, right? So if you have a slide, then you can have an average time of, you can talk about it for average of 1 minute. So according to the number of minutes that you're given, you can make the number of slides as well. And also it helps you in keeping up with the pace, right? You should not go too fast or you should not go too slow as well. So this is one average time that would make your presentation look good, right? Next is, yes, of course, if you rush, it might become unclear, right? If you're rushing through the slides, if you're rushing through your words, what you want to convey will be very unclear to your audience. So it's important for you to keep it slow and keep it in the average time limit. Next is, do give more time for illustrations. For example, if you have a graph or if you have a figure from one of your research work and you're putting it out there, then give some time for them to look at it and understand it. It's very different from a text, right? It takes some time to understand that, and make sure you explain whatever is there in the figure, right? Because you should also tell them what is important and what has to be looked into in the figure, and what is the key takeaway from that as well. So if it's a graph, tell them, for example, you have a comparison bar chart, say for example, right? And you should tell them that there is a difference here, but there is no difference between these two bar graphs. So such things has to be told, like what is your interpretation from this particular graph. So those things also you should tell them, so that the audience and you are on the same page. The next step that I want to give you is, have your presentation in the form of a storytelling, right? Only then the audience will connect with you, right? Only then the audience will be hooked on to your presentation, because you may have started like really well, but then if in between or in the end also, if the audience are not being interested, or if they're not being hooked to your presentation, then again your presentation will not make sense to them. So it's not just about starting your presentation well, it's also about continuing to keep it good, right? So that is the importance of hooking your audience to your presentation. Second, have a broad introduction. So this will help your audience to get into the story well, to get into your research well, right? So it gives them the time to absorb what you're saying, for them to go into that particular phase of the topic that you're going to talk about, so that they are following what you're saying. So yes, have a broader introduction, and of course have a summary in the end, because a conclusion in the end will help them take away the key takeaways and be clear with whatever you've said, right? So a summary is also something that will help you conclude your story well. And yes, of course, ask for questions in the end, right? Ask. So this one is that it will tell your audience that you've finished your talk. And secondly, it will also clear their mind, right? So there might be some confusion that they have. And unless they ask you and you answer it, they will go back without any clarity. So it's very important for you to make sure that your audience have understood whatever you have tried to say. So yes, ask for questions in the end. Now, having said that, please do ask questions if you have any in the comment section about this presentation as well, right? Yeah. So the next tip that I'm going to talk about is learning from others, right? So how are you going to learn from others? First is by attending their seminars or their conferences, where that they can be either bad or good speakers, but you have takeaways from both of these type of speakers. For example, if they are good speakers, yes, of course, you're going to learn, a lot of tips and tricks as to how you can improve your presentation. If they are bad speakers, then yes, you know what is the mistake that you have to avoid and what is it that you should not do, right? So even for avoiding your mistakes, it's important that you attend or watch such seminars so that you avoid them. So you can avoid mistakes by either learning from your own mistakes or learning from others' mistakes, right? So learning from your own mistake is going to take a lot of time. If you have to do it in a shorter way, then yes, learn from others' mistakes. Next is, of course, you can attend any public speaking courses that will help you improving your confidence, and it will also give you the tips that is needed for you to become a good public speaker or a good presenter. So in Biotechnica as well, we have a public speaking career guidance course that is for researchers, for teachers, as well as for bio professionals in very specifically. So this you can take up this course if you want to ace the communication skills and become a powerful presenter. So you can check out the link in the description box below and do check this course out and do take it up if you're somebody who want to improve your skills on the presentation and you want to ace your communication, right? Yeah. Next, the 8th tip that I'm going to talk about is summarize, right? So it's a statistic that only 30% of your data that you give will be grasped by your audience, which means around 70% of what you've talked is not even inside their head. So it's very important for you to tell them what the key takeaways are in your last or your concluding slide so that they know what they have learned, right? So even there, you can have something called discussion. If you've not had it in previous slides, you can have something called discussion where you discuss about your key takeaways and compare it with, other researches that has been done and what is the difference and how have you improved or how is it similar to the previous research papers that has already been done. Next is also do make sure to avoid repetition. Don't make your concluding slide also too big, right? You should just tell them the key takeaways. Don't keep it too long because it will look like repetition of the same facts and it will look very boring for the audience as well. So make sure to keep it as short as possible. The 9th tip that I'm going to talk about is body language, right? Because 80% of what you say is going to be taken by the audience through your body language and only 20% from what you're actually telling them, right? So your body language is very important when it comes to that. So you can be of any of these two, right? Either you could be a powerful person who would dominate the stage and who would be, who would take control of what you're trying to say, or you could be a powerless presenter where you just shut down and you close yourself and then, you go very grim and all of that. So these are the two types of presenters that are usually there. Obviously, you need to aim to become a powerful presenter. And so how does that come? So one is through smile. So smile comes a long way, right? So do look at your audience and smile and be very enthusiastic when you're presenting your work. Second is loosen up, right? Don't just stay very rigid. Loosen up when you're presenting. And third is have eye contact with your audience, right? Make sure that, you're personally talking. They should feel like you're personally telling them something. So that is the importance of having eye contact. Now, this body language is also very, very vastly covered in the public speaking course from Biotechnica that I talked about. So all of these tips that I have been talking about, right? So they are just a glimpse of what is out there. So if you want a very detailed explanation, if you actually want to go through it and have a walkthrough around it, then yes, do take that course up. The next is the 10th and the last step that I'm going to talk about is the D-Day. That is on the day of your presentation. What do you do, right? Yeah, you have finished your presentation, your PPT is ready, it is all clear, you've given all your mock presentations, you're like really thorough with what you have to say, and you know what questions you may or may not know, what questions to expect from the audience and all of that. But what do you do on the D-Day? Well, first arrive early so that there is no panic around that. And secondly, your attire. So wear something that you're more comfortable and confident while you're presenting. So that will boost up your confidence as well. So wear something that's comfortable. Third is carry the essentials. The essentials could be, say, water bottle or even a laser pointer, right? Any of these. So whatever you feel is the essential, make sure you have a checklist and carry them with you. Next is look, do put it out in the presentation, and then see if it is working or not. See if the slides are moving. See if any slide is not looking properly in the demo that you're giving. So make sure that your presentation is working and the slides are moving. So these are few of the tips that I wanted to give you all today, and I'm super sure that it was really helpful for all of you whoever are looking at improving your skills in your presentation. Do let us know in the comment section if you have any questions. Thank you all. See you all in the next video.